Hello, good morning. Welcome to Growth and Grace. Today actually officially is Halloween. So if you're wondering why this outfit, maybe you can tell it's an outfit. I am Mary Ann from Gilligan's Island. So that is why this outfit, Gilligan's Island, where would it have been on the map? I don't know. I don't know which island it was. But anyway, good morning. So that's why this outfit, my gingham shirt, because I'm Mary Ann from Gilligan's Island. So this morning we're talking about one of my favorite things, and it's been coming up lately in conversations with a couple girlfriends of like, how did that come to pass? How did you end up getting that opportunity? How did that end up happening in your life? That's so cool. And my consistent response has been, so I wanted to share with you, my consistent response has been, well, I just asked. I made a request. I asked for it. And I think so many opportunities are lost because people don't ask. And so I want to highlight some of the different arenas where you can ask. And I had a little tech glitch this morning, so I was going to use the phone that I'm recording on for my notes. So I have notes. So there might be some things that I thought of in notes that I forgot to mention here. And oh well, trusting that what I mentioned here is going to be helpful enough. But so I'm going to just share some examples of different things that I have asked for over time to sort of highlight what it can look like, because I think people make asking into this big, heavy, like, oh my gosh, I feel so terrible, and please don't hate me, but I just have this tiny little favor, and if you could just, if you don't mind helping. And so here's a couple things that's just going to clear that up. First thing, if you're going to ask for something, be clear about it up front. So especially if you're going to ask for like a favor or ask for help with something, if you need help moving or something, don't just see what the person is doing that day. Don't just say, what's your schedule like on Saturday? Because, and I'm being very genuine here, and you may have experienced this from me personally, so now you just know the raw, transparent truth about this. There are things that I will make time for in my schedule, and there are things that I will not make time for in my schedule. So if you're gonna, want me to go to this like horrible dive bar and listen to this raunchy comedian, I'm not gonna make time for that. But if you're having like a lovely tea party, I will probably make time for that. So don't just find out what the person's doing. Say, hey, I have this comedy show I want you to come to. It's at this bar. Would you like to join? Versus, hey, what are you doing at 7 p.m. on Saturday? Two very different things, and it makes it awkward for the person you're asking because not everyone is confident saying no. So it's not kind to put someone in a scenario where maybe you're taking advantage of the fact that they're not that good at saying no. So anyway, throwing that out there, that was a bonus tip. I didn't even say that in my notes, but I wanted to share that. So be clear about what you're asking. If you need help moving, say that up front. Like, hey, I'm moving. I could use some help. I could use either, like, I'd appreciate being able to borrow your vehicle, or if you want to come along, like, I could use some extra muscles, or, would you be open to just dropping lunch off for the people who are helping us move? Like, whatever it is, but be clear about it and just ask. So that's one thing. But what I really want to get into, and I'm going to see if I can rest this here so it's not as shaky. What I really want to get into, though, is the different examples and different scenarios where I have asked for help, because I want to just lighten that. I want to lighten that for people, because I think it can be super easy to feel like, oh my gosh, how do I ask? What do I even ask for? Like, is that a scenario where I can ask? And yes, it certainly is. So some of the coolest opportunities that I've had in my life, some of my best clients that I've had in my career have been because I have asked. That's it. It's been a simple ask. I think back to a couple of my very, very favorite clients, some of whom I still get to work with to this day, 7 years later. So fun. And it's because I asked to go grab coffee with them. Like, I asked to, and I'm actually trying to remember now, 7 years ago, did I ask to pick their brain, or did I ask them if they were, I think it wasn't to pick their brain, but I think I knew that I needed a business coach, one of them. So I reached out to her just to kind of see what that would be like. I'd never worked with a business coach before. So that was one of them. The other one was, we'd known each other online only, and we found out that we lived in the same city, so we were just going to connect. So I asked her if she wanted to go grab coffee, and we went for a walk, and then she ended up being a client, and then she introduced me to several other clients. And it was just this whole cool thing because of a simple ask. You guys, a lot of you know I'm working on writing my book right now, Abundant Wife, Wisdom from 1,000 Years of Marriage. And 1,000 years of marriage is not going to come from one person. So I'm interviewing a lot of people. And for those of you curious, it's not my wisdom for marriage because I am not yet married. So I am gathering wisdom from ladies who are in healthy, thriving, Christ-centered marriages and pulling all of that into a book. So that's what the book is. And you can imagine it's taking more than one person to get to 1,000 years. And so I just interviewed another lady yesterday, and I think she was like number 48, interview number 48. That's a lot of asking. That's a lot of involving other people. It's a lot of coordinating. It's a lot of working with different people's assistants. So it's like multiple people involved. It's a lot of coordinating schedules and asking if they could find a different time because the one they suggested won't work. Like, it's a lot of asking, and yet it's all practice with asking. So I want you to, like, I share that portion of it, that kind of behind the scenes glimpse, because I want you to look at your life and recognize where you're already asking for things. Anytime you go order a coffee, you're asking for something. They could technically, I mean, I think a lot of the establishments have the sign up that we have the right to refuse service to anyone. They could technically say no. Like, that would be unexpected. It wouldn't be proper, probably, but they could. And so acknowledge your strength in the fact that you're already asking for things. You're already asking, when you go to the grocery store and you talk to the cashier and you ask them how their day was, you're asking them how their day was. So just know that it's not always asking someone for a favor, but recognize, and I just had this conversation with a girlfriend the other day of recognizing the strengths that you have that you're not realizing. So recognize you're already good at asking. It's just a matter of shifting it into asking for help. And I can think back, one of the most painful times I've ever had to ask for help was, and I'm trying to think now, do backwards math, 2019. So this was probably 2012 or 2013. I honestly don't remember. But I remember having to call my parents and ask them if I could move in with them. And at this time, I was a full-blown adult. Like, I had graduated college. I'd had I'd had a fancy sales career. And then I started my business. And here's just a little side note tidbit for you. When you start a business and you don't ask anyone for support, you don't ask anyone for help, you don't ask anyone if they could benefit from your services, you're not asking anyone for guidance or wisdom, well, let me tell you, that's a really hard way to start and try to run a business. And that's what I did when I first started my business. So my not asking for support and my not asking for guidance and my not asking people to help me led me to a very painful point in my life where I had to call up in tears and just devastation and ask if I could move in with my parents. Like, talk about humbling. It was so, oh my gosh, I can think back to that moment and it was just so awful. But it was because I previously had not been asking. So all of those little times where I could have asked for help and I could have been moving things forward and I wasn't, led to this big painful time where I had to make a really big, super uncomfortable yes or ask. So what I'm getting at is anytime you have the opportunity to ask for support, ask for help, do it. Because the more you practice with the little things, the more that muscle is going to grow, and then the easier it'll be to ask for bigger things and to still continue doing it with full integrity, with full transparency. You're never going to have to, like, it doesn't have to turn into an icky, like, oh, I hate to ask for this, yikes. It can just continue to be like, hey, I have this opportunity. I'd love for you to join me for this. Does that work? Are you free to hop on board with us, this Saturday, whatever. Another recent example, you guys have heard me talking about my dating realm right now and hiring a matchmaker a little while ago. And now this weekend I'm going speed dating. So I asked a couple girlfriends to go with me. because I could have gone alone. I would have gone alone. And it's more fun to go with girlfriends. So ask your friends to join you. And yes, be transparent. And yes, there are girls who have asked who are like, I don't think I want to do that. So no, I'm out. And then there's a few girls who said yes. So we're going to go. So just know that it's okay if people say no. And know that not everyone's going to be available every time. And know that it's not okay for you to make them feel bad if they're not available. So I'm just going to throw that out there because I think some people lean towards the reason you feel bad asking is because of how you handle it when people say no. I'm going to be that bold and say that because it shouldn't feel icky. And then if someone says no and then you make them feel bad, that's probably why it feels icky, because at the end of the day, you know that you're not willing for them to say no. Anyway, not the case for every person, but if that really rubbed you the wrong way, take a look. See how you ask people. See how you treat them when they say no. Manipulation's not great, so I wouldn't recommend it. Anyway, with that, I just wanted to highlight some of those instances of asking for support, asking for help, asking for guidance, asking for advice. I just reached out to a couple girlfriends yesterday. I'm having a few different scenarios pop up that I'm going, oh, I'm not sure that I totally know how to handle that in the most effective way. So I'm asking for support, and I'm reaching out and I'm telling them, I'm either leaving a voicemail and or a text message, giving them a very brief rundown of the scenario, like, hey, here's why I called. I'm just requesting some support with this. I thought of you. Is that something you'd be able to help me with? Like, super simple. So let it be that simple. And they can come back and say no. And often what I'll do is, if it's not you, do you know someone who would be able to support with that? You guys, that's how your network grows. That's how your support system grows, is knowing that not like each person in your life isn't necessarily the go-to for everything in your life, right? That's why you have more than one person in your life. And if you don't have more than one person in your life, start expanding your network, because community is key. But start asking people like, hey, who do you know who would be really great at this skill set? Who do you know who would be able to help me with this? Who do you know who would be able to help me move this weekend? Who do you know who would want to join me for speed dating? Who do you know who would be hiring someone, who's looking for a success and accountability coach? Like, who do you know? And ask. So make the ask, you guys. It's not that difficult. We make it so much more complicated. But I think the biggest key is to be clear on what you're asking. Because if people aren't clear on what you're asking, you're not going to get a clear response. And then that's when it gets in that uncomfortable gray sort of like, I don't know, what are we doing? Like, who's asking for what? What is this scenario? So just be clear about it. Let it be easy. And if you have any scenarios that you're in and you're like, I don't know how to ask for help for this, post it in the comments. Let's come up with a way that you can ask for help for that, because it's usually a lot simpler than you're letting it be. And Google is also amazing if you have things that you need support with. They can answer your question directly, or they can help guide you to someone who can. So Google it. Cool? All right. Ask your questions. Be bold. Be courageous. Do it. Try to ask something new this week. Ask something that maybe you've been sitting on. Ask for it this week. Oh my gosh. Okay. Maybe that just prompted some marriage proposals. Who knows? That would be fun. If you're a guy listening and you haven't proposed to your girl and you're thinking about it, ask for her hand in marriage. Just do it. Be bold. Be courageous. And I will see you next week. Growth and Grace every Thursday, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern.